previously on the Spielman and Hooley We Tackle Life podcast.
I did not change the open, so
mixture
to hear this
of
again.
hail and what?
Sleet.
Hail and sleet is
Grapple, apparently. Kevin was getting some texts and tweets about for meteorologists of what the correct term is, because he and Laura were having an argument of it, whether it was sleet or hail or freezing rain. A grapple. And I was grappling with that decision to talk about it, but they apparently went, thank you.
That goes in your classic creative, funny opens of all time. And hopefully got a little rain this morning. Hopefully no grapple follows you to East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yeah. Big matchup between the Giants and Eagles. And I was reading this morning online where the Eagles had a staff member test positive for COVID.
Uh-oh.
So they're in the protocol, but it seems like that's every week, and teams seem to be handling it pretty well. I thought the NFL, they're doing a remarkable job of getting these games going.
Yeah, they are. They had enough wiggle room that they could postpone early. Now, I don't know. Are they out of wiggle room, or they still have some left? Or
yeah, they have.
I suppose. I think we'll get to the end of the year and we'll have an uneven number of games for some teams in some divisions.
Yeah, I think there's contingency plans. I was reading yesterday where they could add another playoff team and go off win percentage as opposed to games.
Roger Goodell tells the NFL media yesterday that they're committed to completing their full regular season. Well, of course they are. They'd be silly not to. But the cases are spiking all over the country, and
which is fine. I mean,
you've been to New York once before this year, haven't you?
New Jersey, yes.
New Jersey? Okay, yeah. So was that the hotel experience like The Shining?
No.
That was not it? Okay.
No, that was in San Francisco or
course,
Santa Clara.
It'd be one of the two. It'd be California or New York.
So, but, I think the cases are spiking, but, and I know there's going to be a big news conference tonight from Governor DeWine.
Yeah, 5:30.
But people seem to be dealing with it. And when you have tests going up and people getting it, and it's, most people have mild symptoms to no symptoms to, okay, I got a bad cold symptoms, and they're fine in 10 days.
I've known 3 people now in the last 2 weeks that had it, and that's much different than I didn't know anybody who had it. So now, cases, they had 6,000 in Ohio yesterday. So I tend to think, my wife and I have been talking about this, I tend to think we had it here in the house for a while because we had some of the symptoms. Everybody had different symptoms at different times, but I had the body aches where, it just hurt to move. I wish I'd lose my sense of taste. Maybe it's helped me lose some weight. But I'm out and about and doing my thing. If I get it, I'll deal with it, and we'll move on. I think we know so much more about the therapeutics now. I don't know what the governor's going to say. I hope he's not going to cancel the state football playoffs or the state volleyball this weekend or state soccer or anything like that.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I that would be devastating to me if he does that, because people seem to deal with it. If they get it, they deal with it. I do think he's still responsible about not going around people with that are susceptible, and just handle it when it comes. In Macy, my daughter, Bowling Green's dealing with it again. They have 2 weeks from their opener at Purdue, and they're sending 6 girls home. Macy's one of them. She doesn't have it, but it's a close contact. So, that's part of the deal, and that's what everybody's trying to figure out and go along the way. But the thing is to not stop living. If you get it, you put things on pause, you deal with the situation, and you move forward. I don't understand the difficulty behind that.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Welcome to a Wednesday We Tackle Life podcast, everybody. Chris Spielman, Bruce Hooley with you, and we'll talk a little bit about the Buckeye-Maryland game coming up on Saturday at 3:30. Michigan. I've talked to somebody who knows Luke Fickell well. They had an interesting way of framing the conversation about would Luke want or take the Michigan job, and Urban Meyer weighing in on Michigan. So there's all that.
I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, I know. By the way, the collision of this podcast and the Bruce Hooley Show on radio at 98.9 offers you the opportunity to get your Hemisphere Coffee Roasters coffee at an even deeper discount than you could as a Spielman and Hooley podcast listener. Yes, you can still get your 15% discount with the promo code We Tackle Life in all caps. But if you'd like a 50% discount, go to the 989theanswer.com page. We have a discount shopping club Click on, I think the tab at the top is more, and then it'll give you shopping club. Click on that. You'll find a half price offer to Hemisphere where you can buy a $30 gift card for $15. You can buy as many gift cards as you want. You can use them only one at a time, which is fine because $30 will get you, I know, at least 2 pounds of roast coffee or K-Cups or whole bean, whatever you like. Hemisphere Coffee Roasters, they are phenomenal. A lot of our podcast listeners have grown to love them and become repeat customers. Had a friend last night who bought 10 of those gift cards.
Wow.
So he might give
Ready
you
for
a run
holiday
for
shopping.
He might give you a run for your money as the top Hemisphere Coffee Roasters customer out there. So go to 989theanswer.com. And if you can't find it, email us, spielmanhooleypodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get you situated there. Okay, we start today with a little college basketball news. Wichita State is moving toward firing Greg Marshall. He's a combative head coach whose past players have turned on him, and he's going to be out. He's been highly successful, got him to the Final Four, cost Ohio State a trip to the Final Four. The oddity of that is the Buckeye coach at that time was Thad Matta, and Seth Davis of The Athletic says Wichita State's search for a successor to Greg Marshall will start with Thad Matta.
Well, that's short term too, right? Because the season's supposed to get started. Like
yeah, they want Thad like right now.
Go get him. So here you go. Put your system in play. And I don't know why they wouldn't hire from within, but that's good for Thad if he wants to get back into coaching. Good for him.
I think Thad's always interviewed before. I felt like he interviewed before so he could continue to get paid by Ohio State, because his settlement with Ohio State was you have to try to find other work. And I think maybe he got into the process and got excited about the process. He was real close at Georgia, and then he backed out, and then they hired Tom Crean, which of course proves that Thad's a better coach than Tom Crean. Georgia would rather have Thad, which they're smart.
Doesn't have that Indiana pedigree, though. Thad does.
Good. I'm
he's
glad.
Butler, but not Indiana.
Yeah, he's Butler. That's right.
I can stripe warm-ups. You ready for him?
No. There will not be candy stripe warm-ups at Wichita State. But I'd be happy for Thad if he got back in. I don't think he definitely didn't exit the way he wanted to exit.
Do any of us?
Yeah, that's a great question.
No.
Did Urban exit the way Urban wanted to exit?
No.
I'm trying to think. His last year was, Rose Bowl. I mean, that's not how he wanted to exit. He wanted to exit with a national championship, but that's not a bad exit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rose
I'm not
Bowl,
sure
kid
he
who grew
wanted
up
to.
Rose Bowl. Yeah,
There's a
true.
difference between wanting to exit and having to
and
exit.
having to exit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, who did? Well, John Elway, I think, exited pretty well.
Peyton
2
Manning.
straight Super Bowls. Did Peyton win a Super Bowl his
think
last
so.
year? I think he did. Yeah.
Barry Sanders, although he didn't win a Super Bowl, he went out on his own
He
terms.
just faded away. He just, see you later. Bye.
Yeah.
I'm gone. Not
So-
coming back. Very few do. Is that because people are competitive and you always think you have a little bit more in you? You didn't exit the way you wanted
No.
to, and injury forced you out.
No, I think that's certainly part of it. But if you're in a position or a job where there's always younger guys coming up or younger people coming up
that's
and
true.
trying to take your job, or I have that in TV. I mean, there's always people coming in TV coming after your job. You have that in radio. There's always people in radio. So you never know. And so when you're in a highly volatile job, like being a professional athlete, being a coach, it doesn't last forever. And there's an old saying, either you get them or they get you. One of the two is going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
So I was laughing when you said that about radio, and
Joel Riley at 6'10".
Joel Riley at 6'10". I've had 3 radio jobs, and only one of them ended the way I wanted it to. Like at the Fan, I don't know if I was fired or not. They paid me like a long time after I left because they had to. They said, don't come back.
Yeah, you were fired.
And then at ESPN Cleveland, I resigned and left to come to the Zone. So that's
That
the
was a
one
good
that
move.
that's the one that ended. Yeah, that's the one that ended the way I wanted it to. Well, I got to come back home and live, and I got to work
Yeah, well,
with you.
that's actually pretty good. So you get to
And
live
then
at
at the
home.
Zone, they did the iHeart thing where they flipped the format and then got it rolling, and then decided, no, we don't have to pay any attention to that anymore. And guess what? When you stop paying attention to something that's new and growing, it stops growing. But yeah, we didn't talk about Joel Riley and Andy Clark, who you might not have known Andy, but Andy was a staple there. And Tom, Joel's producer. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is at iHeart. They keep cutting, and that's sad to see because somebody told me Joel had that show for 17 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that he was there
Took over for Bob
since
Connors.
Bob Connors. Yeah. Joel did a nice job of following the guy. Most people say, I don't want to follow the legend. I want to follow the guy who follows the legend.
Yeah.
But good luck to Brandon Boxer. I like Boxer a lot. Really, really great guy, great family man. He didn't want to get the morning show at TVN the way he got it, but you got to take a job
What
like
was
that
he doing
when it
there
comes
before? I don't.
Boxer. He's doing COL. He's a big timer on COL on the countryside.
Okay.
Late afternoons. Yeah, he does a great job on the countryside, but he'll do a great job in the mornings. And we wish Joel well. Hopefully he finds something that he loves to do. I wonder if I have a chance to go out the way I want to go out
At the
at
answer.
98.9. I'm not ready to go out yet, boss.
You just started.
I just started. Don't be thinking about any exit strategies.
Yeah.
Fred via Facebook Messenger, and you can always message us on Facebook, says, what happened to Hunter's Blend? Just picked up a variety pack, breakfast blend, and decaf of Hemisphere K-Cups. Fred, I don't know.
I took it all, probably.
Well, yeah, that's true. The Spielmans and the Coffee Wars may have taken all the Hunter's Blend, but I do not know. I cannot answer that question, but maybe you need to make a special request for Hunter's Blend.
Yeah.
I don't know because, of course, Spiels. It's not only a bigger show here when Spiels is here, but it's a bigger order when he orders from Hemisphere. Maybe they make that up special for you. I don't know, but Fred will try to get to the bottom of that. Okay, we were talking about injuries and people exiting the way they want to exit and all that kind of stuff. This is open enrollment period, which means AUIinfo.com is the place you need to go for all the information that you need to have to make the best decision on health insurance. Whether you're a guy who owns a company, woman who owns a company, you have employees, you want to line up the best healthcare benefits, Chrissy and the AUI team can help you with that. Or whether you're somebody who's kind of in business for yourself, but you don't think of yourself as a business, you just think of yourself as a person. I'm thinking lawyer, doctor, caterer, plumber, many, many different things. You are a business, and hence you can get insurance as a business called a group of one. It's one of the many ways that AUI can enlighten you on health insurance. So check them out. All you need to do is go to AUIinfo.com. They have a chat feature. You can set up a Zoom meeting, a phone call, an in-person meeting, whatever it is. AUIinfo.com. You got till December the 15th. Don't put it off. AUIinfo.com. Okay, here's what Urban said about Michigan.
Let's go.
He said that he is, quote, legitimately worried about Michigan and whether Jim Harbaugh will get it turned around. Now,
What?
do you believe
I don't even know what that means.
He's legitimately worried.
Well, legitimately worried about what?
About whether Michigan will become what everybody thought Michigan would become when Harbaugh went there. And I looked at that and I was like, I think you have to have a concern and want the opponent to get to that level before you can be legitimately worried. I don't know that worried is the right word there.
You know what? When Urban first got the job, when Harbaugh first got the job, did Harbaugh and Urban get the job the same year?
No, Urban was already there, but boy, I thought thought it was on then.
I take a lot of pride in when I was asked by Urban to go speak to the team. So I went to speak to Ohio State's team when Harbaugh got the job. And I remember sitting there in front of the team saying, I'm going to tell you, this is different. It's going to be so much different. They're going to be a different team. They're not going to be a spread offense like Brady Hoke, and they're not going to finesse anything. They're going to be ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a real Ohio State-Michigan game. So if you take Michigan for granted or count it as a W like they were used to doing at the time, I promise you, don't do that because Harbaugh will have them ready, and it's a different world now. And man, was I wrong. And I think back on that, and it's like kind of embarrassing. Like, guys, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, well, year one, Ohio State had it rolling, and Michigan was deficient in talent. So that one, I kind of write off. Year two, let's see, this is year 6. So for Harbaugh, so 2020, 19, 18, 17, 16. Yeah, 16. 2016 was the game in Ohio Stadium, the overtime game. JT Barrett, 4th down. That's a close game. That's a either-or game. Then the next year up in Ann Arbor was when they had to play John O'Corn at quarterback, and they had guys open all day. He couldn't hit them. DPJ had a big punt return. Michigan made that a tight game. Michigan had the ball at the end of the game. If they can go score a touchdown, they win. O'Corn threw a horrendous interception, and Ohio State won the game. Then it's just been
Awful.
It's been a Don Brown failing as much as anything.
Yeah.
The defense they can't stop Ohio State.
No, and I don't know if they're going to be able to stop them this year. They couldn't stop Indiana and Michael Penix.
Well, Urban made this point. Urban said Michigan State threw it all over the place against Michigan.
Rocky Lombardi.
The great Rocky Lombardi, one of the great names of all time in the Big Ten.
How many points did they score last week against who beat them last
And that's
week?
what Urban said. He
Iowa?
goes, they couldn't score 7. They couldn't score against Iowa. 0-2 Iowa. Michigan State couldn't. After racking up high 20s in points and 340-some throwing it. And Indiana did the same thing that Michigan State did. They just kept throwing it and throwing it and throwing it.
Yeah. Well, that Penix is playing pretty well, and it'd be interesting coming up on Ohio State, Maryland, as you talk about. Game I'm looking forward. Hopefully they have the Big Ten Network in the hotel that I'm staying at this week, but hopefully Ohio State will win that game. But I do think their secondary is going to get challenged because Tunga Viola, I don't even know the kid's first name, his little brother, can sling it. I was watching highlights of this Maryland because I knew I'm just looking for anybody to give Ohio State a game. And hopefully Ohio State's defense will be challenged at least through the air like they haven't been challenged yet. Penn State couldn't throw the ball.
Penn State. I mean, it's possible that the 3 in the standings anyway, at the end of the year, it's possible Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State will finish below Rutgers, Indiana, and Maryland.
Right. Very possible.
Rutgers has a win. Penn State doesn't.
Yeah. And Nebraska couldn't throw the ball. So Ohio State has not been challenged defensively yet. And they've looked suspect at times.
Sean Wade has looked suspect. Sean Wade yesterday said he's playing terrible.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a slot and does he have more area of the field to cover? Is it a different technique? Like what?
Yeah, I think it's different. You have to cover maybe a little bit longer on the outside. I just maybe knowing where his help is. A couple of those things where he had some problems against Penn State. A couple of the catches were just great.
Great
Coverage
catches. He's
fine.
in position.
No problem. That happens, right? But a couple of them, we were out of position where, I know he's playing a certain technique and he understands that could be help somewhere, but I think he's just getting used to playing that position and understanding, well, maybe if I give this guy inside relief, letting him release inside and making it easier for him, because I have help inside. But I do think he's just kind of learning, well, maybe I shouldn't give him that much of a clean release off the ball. But I think it's just more of a technique thing. Look, Sean athletically can do it, and he's got all the tools. It's just a matter of doing it. And there's a confidence issue right now, in my opinion. And, corners, it's a difficult position to play. It is the second most difficult position in all of football to play, in my opinion, because of, not only the physical challenges, but the mental challenges. Because if you get beat, it's it's glaring and everybody knows whose fault it is. And so it's a really, really hard position to play. I think Sean will be fine. Like, I don't think his NFL thing is in jeopardy or anything like that. I think when coaches look at it, they look at a kid that's at size and can run. We'll coach him when we get him here.
Yeah. What about, though, if let's say the rest of the year he plays, he's not going to play bad, but he plays okay, but he doesn't play like Jeff Okudah or Damon Arnett. How much will it affect his draft stock if he is looked upon as a slot corner as opposed, because he can definitely play that as a slot corner as opposed to a field corner.
I mean, those guys are valuable players, right? Slot corners play 70% of the plays, or they're big nickel guys, what they're talking about. And so certainly there's value in that position. I don't know if he'd be a first round pick. That's the thing. I mean, it could be second or third round pick, but I'm not convinced that somebody's going to say, okay, Sean Wade we can't draft him and put him a corner.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that
The guys who've come ahead of him would suggest that taking an Ohio State corner is not a bad idea.
And I think again he has all the physical tools, and I do think, Bruce, that when you have some struggles at that position, and you have all the standards and expectations, he's got to deal with the disappointments. And a lot of times you're judged on how you deal with the disappointments. And I'm glad that Sean came out and said that, didn't make any excuses. And he's got a rest of the year to fix it. And we'll see what happens.
Talia Tagovailoa is the brother of Tua. Tua and
Tunga Viola.
Tunga Viola. I don't think it's Tunga.
It is Tunga.
Is it?
Yeah,
you got that in your Fox pronunciation guy?
Yes,
okay.
and that's
Tunga Vailoa.
Right, that's why if I don't know
I've
a guy's
moved
name,
on to Uiagalelei. That's what I've moved on to in terms of your Polynesian quarterbacks.
Kid from Clemson.
He's
going to be pretty good there.
Holy smokes, that kid's big.
I mean, you see his dad. What's his dad?
His dad's like his dad's a bodyguard. It's like 400 pounds. Yeah, but not a fat 400, which is hard to do, by the way. It's hard to weigh 400 and not be fat. Now, Fred,
that's great for AUI too.
Who sent us a message earlier about Hunter's Blend, says he's gotten his daughter insurance from AUI. Fantastic, Fred. We appreciate that. But here, he says maybe it's a bigger coffee when you order it, like I said. But here's Kevin's got the ultimate idea. He says that maybe they should rebrand it as Spielman Blend.
Exactly, Kevin.
And it would be big. Yes. Well, I'll pass that along to Andy and Paul and all the people at him.
Kevin, you do your last name justice.
The problem. Kevin Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was very good. I see what you did there. The
you
problem, Kevin, is
and humor,
if they were to brand it as the Spielman Blend, that would cost them a certain amount of money, as IMG and Honda and everybody else found out when you attach the Spielman name to something without permission.
I would never ever accuse anybody of using my name, image, and likeness.
No, I'll make the point before somebody else does on Twitter.
Yes, thank you. Well done.
Oh my. Well, here's what young
and we were actually probably illegally talking at a stadium, but we are actually talking about quarterbacks. I know.
Did your buzzer go off? Do you have to wear one of those? You don't have to wear one of those things?
We had masks on. We were
Alright.
6 feet away, and we were, exercising the proper protocols and following all the rules.
Wash your hands later? after
Yes,
that?
all that.
Just checking.
I do all what we have. I mean, I do it. If I want to work, I follow the rules.
Yep.
But anyway, I asked him, what's the difference between Haskins and Justin Fields?
Oh, good question.
Can you tell? Do you know? Do you have an idea?
Well, I mean, the knock on Haskins is he doesn't study enough. But
That's going through progressions and everything,
Yeah.
and he's doesn't see it like
Fields does.
Justin sees it. And so I'm excited for the kid. I mean, in all the bad news, and we're constantly surrounded by, okay, they're under COVID protocol. The SEC canceled 3 games, and you just keep moving on. But when you see good things happen for players, I love that. I mean, I really do. I learned how to celebrate. I used to always tell why something didn't work. Now I say why it works. So I kind of try to accentuate the positive, and I'm always looking for the positive in all these stories out there, like watching Tua play on Sunday, or the highlights of Tua play on Sunday. I'm rooting for that kid, right? Because he's had the injuries, and I've been through injuries. I got a kid that's trying to come back from an injury, and a stupid COVID BS crap is keeping her from coming back. And so you just gotta learn how to persevere. You learn how to push through it, and when things aren't going well and they keep not going well, what's your response going to be? And so when I see a kid like Tua come back and get his opportunity, and Brian Flores, the head coach in Miami, getting all kind of grief for benching Fitzpatrick, who they were winning with, but he's building for the future, and to go into Arizona and beat Kyler Murray and beat Kyler Murray at the level that Kyler Murray's playing at for the Cardinals, it's fun to see.
that surprised me. Yeah, that one surprised me.
Well, he's so good too, man. I mean, the quarterbacks in this league are just so dynamic, are they not?
Well, he is. I mean, 100 yards rushing, and he's.
No, I mean, he is, and the guy that continues to impress me, and because one of the cool things on I don't know if you have the NFL app. I have the NFL app, so
I of course do not, because I'm not a.
Well,
I'm not a Hall of Fame nominee. I'm not a college football Hall of Famer. I'm not a Fox NFL analyst.
You don't have to have that to be pre-qualified. You don't have to be pre-qualified to get an app.
I just wondered.
There's a thing on the App Store that you can buy.
Oh, I thought maybe it was an insider deal.
But anyway, on the NFL app, you get like 35 highlights of each game.
Yeah.
And the guy that can I think will go down. Now, I think he's a Hall of Famer. And I don't know if people think this or not. If you're going to say Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer, then you better tell me Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer.
Well, Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
That's not even a question.
But when we talk about, we've had this conversation many times.
He's underappreciated.
Yeah. Do you think so?
Yes,
I'm not
I
the
do.
only one that thinks that.
He doesn't look
The role.
he doesn't look
He's
athletic when he does stuff. He
so
looks lumbering, kind of,
He's
but
so
he's
good.
just I mean, he's amazing. And now he's on the COVID list. But Steelers had 5 guys.
In line. Everybody's on the COVID
We got
list.
5 days. I think he's got time. Baker Mayfield. Today's the day Baker Mayfield could come back to practice.
Right.
If Ben can't play Sunday, that's a big break for the Bengals.
Yeah.
The Bengals knock off the Steelers, 8-0 Steelers.
Oh, I think
Is it Mason Rudolph? Is he the Steelers backup?
Yeah. I think I actually thought I was going to do that game, and then we got switched to New York because it's the battle of first place in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Hey, it's still a first place battle.
What's up with Carson Wentz? Turning it over all over the place.
He has more turnovers himself than 30 other teams in the NFL.
Oh, that's not a stat you want next to your
why?
name.
I don't understand the guy because I love the guy.
Yeah.
And this was your guy, and thank
So
gosh
it was.
Cleveland didn't draft him.
We'd have ruined him. We'd have ruined him for sure. He'd be out of the league by now with Hugh Jackson.
Well, he's on his way out of the league, right?
I don't know about that.
Well, I was just watching press conferences this morning. It's a beautiful thing about working in the NFL is that you pull up press conferences and comments by players and coaches. There's no filter in college football. There's a filter. You know that, right?
Yep.
Can't talk and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you to give away the secrets. But
Paranoia runs rampant.
he just tries to make a great play every single time, and he's going to keep doing it. And that's the thing that bothers me about him. I don't want to take away the aggressiveness, but he's got to make better decisions. And I have a theory on how they can help him do that, which, they just need to go up tempo a little bit more. I think when they go up tempo, it helps him with his timing. That's going to be my suggestion to Doug Peterson, head coach of the Eagles, when I talk to him on a Zoom call.
Excellent. I'm sure he'll go.
Wow, what a great idea.
I'm sure you listen to the podcast.
Yes. 2 Men in a Basement, NFL consulting firm.
Sure, but here, let me help you out there,
Yeah.
Super Bowl winning coach.
Yeah. Come on, Doug.
So,
Speaking of the Bengals.
wait, can I just tell you the difference? I know how much you appreciate this, right? I was talking to a college announcer friend of mine yesterday, and I'm going, "How the Zoom calls going for you?" Right? I go, "They're fine. They're fine for us."
Mhm.
The players are actually better on a Zoom call than they are in person. The players
Are they?
yeah. Coaches are good. It's better than phone calls, put it that way. But the NFL guys are pretty forthright. Here, this because it's out there. Everything's out there. College coach Kyle Whittingham, who I love, nice man, great guy, good coach. At the Zoom call, this friend of mine that was doing a game for ESPN, Utah and somebody, I don't even know who they're playing, and Kyle said, I will not give you the start who my starting quarterback is. That will give the team an advantage that we're and these guys are just trying to do their job, right?
Why can't he just tell them and have them not say who it is, but that'll allow them to do their
they
prep?
don't trust it. And here's the thing.
Come on, dude.
The other thing, it doesn't really matter who your starting
Right.
quarterback. Your offense isn't changing. Do you understand?
Probably if you're undecided at that position, it's not a strength.
Yeah, it's not something. If I were opposing coach, well, if he doesn't know who his quarterback is, it's not like I'm going to exactly worry about it. I know what their offense is, and if this guy's in there, they're going to do this more.
Yeah.
So I guess that for me, when I look at this, and I look at Carson, and I look at all these NFL quarterbacks, I mean, it is a quarterback-driven league, and I am all for the league protecting these star players because they are the reason why people watch. You can say you watch for defense and great line play, then you'd be lying.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, at the end of the year, is it possible we will be saying that Justin Herbert is a
Very
better
possible.
quarterback than Joe Burrow?
Another conversation I had yesterday. Yesterday was quarterback day.
Okay. And that's not to say Joe Burrow is doing anything wrong.
No.
It's more of a, hey, Justin Herbert's really good.
First of all, I love Joe Burrow. What he's been able to do this year, and it's been fun to watch. And if I'm the Bengals, I'm certainly happy that I got Joe Burrow. If I'm the Los Angeles Chargers, I'm certainly happy that I got Justin Herbert. I mean, I got our guy, right? And sometimes we hear that people just saying that, that makes it sound like they did the right thing for. In this case, there's two things can be true at once. Now, the question to you, and I don't know, I've watched Justin on film, and I've watched games, and I've done games with Joe. Right now, if you had to pick one, which one do you take?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'd take Justin. He's got the bigger arm.
Well, Joe's got a pretty big arm.
Justin, it comes out of his hand differently.
Yeah, I think I would probably take Justin.
I think I'd take Justin.
But that doesn't mean that I don't love Joe Burrow, and
you got to pick one.
And Joe's doing great things, and Joe's done it with minimal guys around him.
Or in front of him, more so. He's got a lot of guys around him. He just doesn't have very many guys in front of him.
The guy I was talking to is saying no. He said
he likes Burrow?
Well, he said the difference is the mind.
I can agree with that. I think
Joe has everything going mind-wise and work ethic and everything you want. He's got every intangible, so he checks every box. So I don't know. I go back and forth on that.
Is it possible that they both got, as you started this conversation, is it possible they both got the right guy for them? Herbert's a West Coast guy, and Burrow's a Midwest guy, and Burrow's got the leadership stuff, which I think the Bengals organization really, really needs.
Yeah.
I think they both got the right guy.
I think it's like, okay, who do you want? Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
Now they're
I
not
want Mahomes.
They're
That's who I
not.
want.
They're not those guys. I don't
Right.
know. I kind of lean Russell.
I like Russell. When you were talking about Wentz, and you said, when you started about this guy's a Hall of Famer, I thought you were going to mention Russell Wilson instead of Ben Roethlisberger.
I think Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer.
He's sure on his way.
Although he did have 4 turnovers Sunday.
That's not very dangerous.
No, but he's so good. The Seahawks are not a 500 team without him.
No, without him, they're not.
He is just so fun to watch, and so these guys are so good. That's the beauty of the NFL. That's why I love it, and I can keep loving it. And the cool thing about the NFL, maybe I haven't noticed it at games. Maybe I don't know if you've noticed it, but all the social messaging, right or wrong, doesn't matter. Just all the social
gone away.
Doesn't it seem like it's gone away?
I don't watch it as closely as you do.
But if you noticed it, I guess.
Now that you mention it, yes. And that would be a good thing. Because I think
as I said before, appreciation week last week.
It's not about the message. It's just we'd like a break from the conversation at some point in time. That's what we'd like.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. I promised you I'd give you a little Luke Fickell insight. You mentioned Kyle Whittingham. He'd be on my list.
Sure.
If I were the Michigan
Absolutely.
athletic director. Wisconsin, by the way, is free from COVID prison, as is Graham Mertz, their quarterback, as is Paul Chryst, their coach. They are going to play at Michigan on Saturday night at 7:30. It'll be their first game in 3 weeks. And I think they're going to unleash HE double toothpicks on Michigan.
If they can beat Michigan after being off as long as they've been off, that's a problem.
So Michigan, I believe, will drop to 1-3. The death march will be well on its way to the end of the Harbaugh era. They got to be finding out an exit plan so he can save face, and they can too. But you can't renew him.
That's great.
I don't know what you sell.
Playing.
So my list would be Whittingham, Bronco, and not in any particular order. Whittingham. These are the guys I
don't
would
say. Bronco Mendenhall.
Yeah, I was going to say Bronco Mendenhall. You don't like Bronco Mendenhall, Virginia?
I do.
He's done a nice job.
I don't like him at Michigan.
Okay, why is that? It doesn't seem like that was as odd a fit as Rich Rod.
Well, yeah. Well, how'd that work out?
Well, who said that wouldn't work out from the first day?
You.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank
1,
you.
2, 3. You.
So
all right.
Yes. Congratulations. 1, 2, 3. Me. Yeah.
Who's the one that said Luke Fickell to Michigan early on? The first.
Well, now the person that I talked to said, "Here's the problem for Luke going to Michigan." I said, "Look, you got to take that call. You got to, I said, there are things you can do at Michigan that are almost impossible to do at Cincinnati. I'm not going to say you can't do them, but they're almost impossible to do at Cincinnati. Be in the playoff every year. If Michigan were like Ohio State, they'd be considered a playoff team every year. Not going to get that way at Cincinnati." So the person said to me, "All right, here's the problem for Luke taking the Michigan job. If you take that job, the guy who's grown up in Columbus, lived in Columbus, worked in Columbus, everything's Columbus, 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 his family's in Columbus," he said, "you really can't go back to Columbus. You're really like saying, okay, that part of my life's over. I don't want to go back to Columbus." I don't mean go back to Columbus and work. I mean, like, go back to Columbus and, but I said, well, if he's at Cincinnati, he's too busy. He's not really coming here anyway. They're like, no, it's a big deal.
If he stays.
So this person knows him very, very well. Very well. I'll tell you after the podcast who it was.
Luke grew up here. I didn't grow up here. So I don't, that wouldn't be a big deal to me, but. You grew up here. Would that be a big deal to you?
If I couldn't ever come back here,
why would
I don't know. It would depend on where I landed. Like if I landed in Boise, or if I landed in, and not from a football perspective, but there are places I wouldn't mind living. I wouldn't mind living in Nashville. Wouldn't mind living in Texas. Wouldn't mind living in Arizona. If I moved to Arizona and you said you can never go back to Ohio,
okay,
I'd be like, wait, is there a downside coming? I love Ohio, but Arizona's Arizona. So
Depends.
But
on
he
your-
knows Luke, so he knows how Luke thinks. I took that more as not that I necessarily agree with it, but that must mean a lot to Luke.
Maybe it does.
sales,
I don't know,
and all that
Luke.
stuff.
I've never talked to Luke about that. So
Yeah.
talked to him about a lot of things. I haven't talked to him about that. I know that it's not a bad thing to be at Cincinnati, and
Until
It's-
you find a place you want to go.
it's-
I think eventually he's going to get
he's had
all football,
opportunities
all
to go.
football. I know he turned down West Virginia, he turned down Michigan State. So he's like Matt Rule was at Baylor. He's like waiting for the perfect opportunity.
Maybe he has aspirations of following like what Mike's doing at Tennessee and coaching in the NFL.
Maybe
or
he
like
does.
Matt Rule does at Carolina.
But here's the guy I liken Luke to at Cincinnati. How many jobs did Chris Peterson turn down? Pretty much every one until he ended up at Washington. Now,
Right.
Washington's a good job, but Washington's not USC. It's not Texas. It's not Ohio State. It's not Michigan. It's not Penn State. It just isn't. So he ends up at Washington, and he did a nice job at Washington.
Mhm.
Got him in the playoff once. They got smoked, but they got in. But Washington, I think, is not a place where it's not a top 10 program. It's probably between 10 and 20. So the longer Luke waits and the more places he turns down, the more younger coaches are coming up who
Yeah.
become the hot guy instead of him becoming the hot guy. Right now, he's as hot a guy as there is.
Kind of like TV, like we talked about.
Yeah, it is. There's always
Like
somebody new.
Somebody new.
There's always
coming.
somebody new. So here's another name I'm going to throw out for Michigan. And you're gonna laugh at me because you're gonna go, oh, this again. Jeff Hafley.
I'm not laughing at that.
Here's why. If you're listening and you say, well, he's been at BC 1 year, he wouldn't leave. The guy who hired him at BC, Martin Jarman, former Ohio State assistant AD, Martin Jarman left right after he hired Hafley to go to UCLA. And guys like to work for the guy who hired him.
Yeah.
And Hafley's doing a really good job at BC.
Yeah.
Hafley to Michigan. Let's approach it from a different perspective. Who would scare you more as Michigan becoming really, really good? What we thought they'd be with Harbaugh. Whittingham, Fickell, Matt Campbell, Jeff Hafley. Ooh, silence. He's pondering that. Whittingham,
I don't think there's a bad.
Hafley,
I guess I'm silent
Fickell,
because
Campbell.
I don't think there's a bad choice Michigan make amongst those guys. Now, I thought Harbaugh was the right guy at the right
home
time.
run,
I think
grand
everybody
slam.
did, right?
Yeah, everybody did.
The only thing, here's the simple truth to the whole Michigan mystery, is he could never get the quarterback, and I don't understand that.
Or the line, or the running back.
Well, they had 10 NFL draft choices last year. I mean,
Well, they don't play like it.
Yeah,
They don't play like it.
Harbaugh to the Dolphins.
No, the Dolphins have Brian Flores. They're not firing Brian Flores.
Brian Flores right now.
He's
Contemporary
really
coach
doing
of
a
the
good
year.
job. Nick wants to know Luke to Penn State. That I could see.
Yeah, could he come back to Columbus?
Yes, you can come back to Columbus.
Just
if you're at Penn
Michigan,
State.
huh?
Yeah, Michigan can't do that. Yeah. That I could see. Could Luke Fickell, what percentage chance would you put on Luke Fickell being the head coach next season at Ohio State?
No, 0.
0.
Yes.
Ryan Day runs the table, wins a national championship. Justin Fields leaving. NFL teams looking for a hot young coach.
I just don't see it happening.
Well, Ryan's a smart guy, and he's not going to take. I don't think Ryan would take the New York Jets job because it's a train wreck. If a bunch of guys have failed someplace, it's not necessarily a coach problem. It's an organization issue. Can be fixed, yes, but it takes a lot. Matt Rule waited for a organization that he felt good about, an owner he felt good about.
Well,
That's
Matt
smart.
Rule. Well, see, the other thing people have to understand is that, like Ryan Day, Matt Rule had NFL experience.
Yep.
Right. And so Ryan's had NFL experience. And I've been a Ryan Day fan. I've told the story many times since I've met him at Boston College. So, and I think Ryan's done a great job. I just think for
He
Luke, I
has.
mean, if say you're making, you're making whatever Luke's making.
probably making 3, 4.
I don't know if he's making that much, but if he is, great.
I think they signed him a new deal. I would say 3 is
So
pretty
then,
safe.
but why leave?
Oh, I'm not trying to chase him out of there,
No,
but I'm saying eventually all these guys want to know, what could I do at the highest level? What could I do if they all know their resources, and they all think Luke would be the exception if he said, hey, life's good in Cincinnati. Life's good in the AAC.
Got a lot of kids, right?
I got a lot of kids, 6 kids. I like Cincinnati. They're not going to fire me at Cincinnati. I'll just stay 20 years at Cincinnati. That would make him an outlier in his profession. Most guys say, I like it here. It's nice here, but wow, Texas. Ooh, wow, Penn State. Wow, Michigan. What could I do there? That's natural, right?
Yeah.
So Ryan Day has that. Ryan Day's like, there's no better college job than Ohio State, but is in the back of his mind is like, wonder what I could do in the NFL. Like
I think it is with
Matt Rule and Ryan Day like circulated in some of the same circles. Ryan Day may say, well, Matt can do that, or I'd like a chance to do that. I look at some of these young coaches. Ryan was one of those guys that like every year he was in a different place,
Yeah.
So his paths have crossed with tons of people we don't even know his paths have crossed with. I'm sure he knows a bunch of NFL coaches, and being in the NFL, with the Niners and all that stuff, he knows a bunch of people. So he might be looking around across the league going, well, if that guy can do it there, like imagine what I could do there. And so don't we both agree he's eventually going to be in the NFL?
I don't know I would think so. I mean, it leads that way.
That's the perception.
Yeah. I think so. I think he's a NFL head coach guy. But I don't know. I don't know that. So
but I'm just saying, with Justin Fields leaving, with Olave leaving, with all these guys leaving, if you win a national championship, you can't be mad at him at Ohio State for leaving. It's like, look, I won a national championship.
But
I won as many national championships in 2 years as Urban won in 7 and as Tress won in 10. I mean, how do you snark that?
You don't.
So that's why I say, could Luke Fickell be the head coach at Ohio State next year? We are agreed that Luke would not turn that down.
No.
And Ohio State could not go anywhere else, correct?
I wouldn't say that.
I don't think you can go anywhere else.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
You wouldn't think Ohio State doesn't put limits on itself.
All right. Spiels is protecting his legal backside if you would like to do the same. Willis Spangler Starling is the way to go. Stan Willis and all the great attorneys at Willis Spangler Starling. They're expanding their expertise across different fields all the time, but certainly they cover all the biggies. They are a full-service law firm, so nothing's going to come up in your life that they are not equipped to handle with the highest degree of integrity, character, and expertise. So workers' comp, personal injury, wills, estate planning, contracts, on and on and on and on. The list is long because the legal profession is complicated, and you want a firm that can handle it and will do it with extreme acumen. That is Willis Spangler Starling. Browse their website, willisattorneys.com, willisattorneys.com. If you have any legal needs or you just want to get a firm on retainer for your business or for your family, willisattorneys.com. Willis Spangler Starling is the firm. All right, today's Veterans Day, and you and I both had the privilege of having people in our family, grandfathers, fathers, on and on and on, serve. We want to pay homage to all our veterans, past, present, and I would add future, because it does take a sacrifice of the most precious commodity there is to serve our country, and that is a sacrifice of time. You put your life on hold. It is, in my view, I'm not sure this is theologically sound or not, but I view it as the personification of the scripture that says, greater love hath no man that he would lay down his life for his brother. Certainly that is true of anyone in our military who has paid the ultimate sacrifice, but it is also, I think, true of people who serve our country in an all-volunteer army. It is true of men and women in World War II when the threat of a Nazi takeover of the world brought about a situation where you were drafted. Get this. Think of this now. You were drafted if you were under age 50 and you were in for the duration. You were not drafted for 2 years. You were under age 50 for the duration. That is the epitome of a nation marshaling its forces, economic, personally, and every other way, to unite against a common cause. And so I have great respect for veterans.
Sure.
I have a deep affinity for people who give their time. I view what you and Steph have done with the Cancer Research Fund as a way of serving others. And it is the epitome of Christianity, to serve others. That was what Jesus said when he washed the disciples' feet. And you are to wash one another's feet. In other words, you are to serve each other.
Yep.
So I just want to shout out all the veterans, and I would also thank first responders, who I know you're paid and all that stuff. You're not paid enough, because in our society, the people are infrequently paid in direct relationship to their importance of their service. Teachers fall under that. Pastors fall under that. But I just want to thank the veterans and make that tie between what I think is a biblical mindset and a biblical commitment to service that I see in veterans.
I echo your comments. In that spirit, I will share this with you today. And I thought this was appropriate for today. An anxious heart weighs a man down. Isn't that the truth?
So true.
I mean, that's something I battle my whole life and still do to this day, but a kind word cheers him up. Nothing outside a man can make him unclean by going into him. Rather, it's what comes out of a man that makes him unclean. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers, this should not be. And that's so true. I mean, it is what it is. It's very frustrating, and you try to keep a positive attitude. I am like, if my mindset doesn't change. I'm Team America. If Joe Biden looks like he's going to end up being president, I'm rooting for Joe Biden. I'm rooting for America. I'm rooting for people to keep their jobs. I'm rooting for everything. Might not agree with how things are done, but I'm rooting for America. And so I just, the same with President Trump. I mean, we constantly attack people, and I just don't understand it. I can understand having disagreements and civil discourse and all those cool things, and fine. But we got to be rooting for Team America. And I know that sounds a little hokey, rah, but that's what my mindset is trying to be. And sometimes instinctively, I got to fight that. But I'm not trying to live instinctively. I'm trying to live biblically. And when I read that this morning, I have to constantly check myself. And that's the thing about living a Christian life and doing those things, Bruce, is that it takes work, and you can't get discouraged. If you look at it as a blessing, if you recognize when you're falling short or you're doing things you're not supposed to do, that don't beat yourself up over that. Just make the correction. Just keep trying to make the correction. And I had this conversation with myself last night, and because I'm trying to stay off Twitter and get away from negativity all the time, because I just can't.
It's smart.
I got enough negativity in my life. I got enough worries. I worry about my kids, and I get frustrated. I get frustrated with my daughter, with Macy, who worked her around out to come back from an ACL, and now is going to probably miss the opener because of COVID. And not that she has it. I almost wish she would get it, to be honest with you, to get it over with. But obviously, the disclaimer is, it's a mild case. Like most people have mild cases of this virus. But I guess my point is that I'm sick of the negativity, and people thrive on that. And I just do not understand how we got to this point. and I'm going to do my part to change it. I'm going to disagree. I'm always going to support life and do everything I can to fight for life, but I'm not going to start tearing other people down and ripping people apart. I'm just going to be a cheerleader for our country as a whole.
Do I do too much engaging on that? And I'm intractable on it. You're intractable on it. You don't engage people on that topic. You can't engage people on that topic without imperiling your livelihood like I can. I feel it's a calling, given the platform that I have, where I have the platform at this moment. I try to engage in an enlightening, measured way. Sometimes I don't do a very good job of it, but how I feel about that issue, the pro-life issue, is not a mystery. And I've been asking myself, when you talked about the rancor and everything, I've been asking and praying every day, Lord, I want to speak truth, but I don't want to be blind to the fact that I can become legalistic. I can become divisive.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, convict me. I don't want to be, a false teacher. I don't want to be a Pharisee. So just, watch that in me. And I always would welcome your counsel and your accountability.
Here's my counsel on this, because instead of fighting in generalities, right? You fight for the individual, right? So what if you can somehow persuade or help somebody make a decision, instead of maybe selecting termination, maybe select adoption, or just present alternatives? And then if somebody makes a poor decision and they suffer for it, have empathy for that person. And I know it's hard, but either God is judge of all or he's judge of nothing. We're not the judge, but we can be an advocate for truth, and we can be an advocate for biblical standards, but we're not keeping score. And I get caught up in keeping score. So instead of fighting it there's other people that are in positions to fight it on a national level. You fight it on an individual level, or maybe you can make a difference in one person's life. That's, I guess, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's, I think, where I can be most effective.
Well, that's really good advice. Someone asked me the other day on Twitter, someone who agrees with my position on pro-life issue, and they said, why do you engage with people? Because they're not going to, and I said, I engage because I'm trying to keep people from, and this is where, my opinion enters into it,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't necessarily want you to weigh in because I don't want to put you in a danger zone. My opinion is those who justify, there's a lot of talk now about you can be a good Catholic and through your own logic reason out and rationalize pro-choice. And in an effort to not allow someone to make what I think is an erroneous judgment, an erroneous decision on that issue, I speak to it, and I speak to it in very plain terms. And I said I also do it so that people who might be undecided can see the perspective that I have on it, as opposed to listening to the perspective of someone who wants to justify it. And it goes back to something a wise person said one time about, your faith's not a la carte. So that's how I'm trying to engage on the topic. I just would like for you to police my tweets, things like that, and keep your eye on that so that I don't become a legalist. I don't become a Pharisee. I don't become a divider rather than somebody that's trying to do it in the right way. I've really appreciated in the past how you've watched me and admonished me and encouraged me. You've done a great job of saying you're capable of better.
Yeah.
And that's always a great way to talk to people, is to encourage as you correct. Right. I think you're really good at that. You're good at that with your kids. You're good at that with me. I want to affirm you in that it is a great way to correct people if you can wrap the correction in genuine, authentic, true encouragement, not fluff, not made up stuff. But you do that very well.
Well, thanks. Here's for all you listening out there. Here's the only thing you have to ask yourself every single day on what you, if you start trying to justify things biblically, just know that you're going to have to stand and answer one day. And what's going to be your answer? That's all. And how you go about fighting the good fight, as Apostle Paul talks about. Fighting a good fight. How'd you fight the good fight?
Right.
And you'll have to answer one day. I know I will. And I know where my heart is and what I stand for. And it's sometimes it goes against what I want to do or want to say, just instinctively, but I cannot live instinctively. I got to live biblically, or try to live biblically.
Friday, back with more Maryland, Ohio State preview. We appreciate you guys joining us today. Spiels is off to the Meadowlands for the Carson Wentz Turnover Festival. And
well, Daniel Jones isn't exactly
a
protector of the ball either.
Maybe you'll get to see Austin Mack score his first NFL touchdown.
I hope so.
Came awful close last week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Patronize our sponsors. Leave us a review on iTunes. And get those nominations in for COVID-19 relief. Spielman Hooley Podcast at gmail.com. Spielman Hooley Podcast at gmail.com.